Now, Mark is very, very polite and very careful how he speaks. He is doubtless a protege of the Apostle Peter. He doesn't want to hurt anybody's feelings, especially these great, wonderful apostles. And so he merely says, there were some there who had indignation. And they spoke against this woman and said, why was this ointment? Why was this waste of the ointment made? It could have been sold, and we could have used 300 silver coins to help put the shoes on the poor little barefoot boys and girls running around Jerusalem here, or feed the hungry, or something, or clothe the naked. This is horrible, to waste money like this. And if you are a member of any church board anywhere, I pretty well guarantee if Judas Iscariot had been there, if you had been there, you would have also voted to condemn Mary for what she did. Because no church board will agree to waste money like that. I think even this 1888 Master Study Committee wouldn't want to waste money, would you? We're so poor anyway. And Jesus got upset. And the way Matthew tells it, he didn't catch on at first to what was going on. Perhaps he was startled by what Mary had done. Don't forget, Jesus is a human being as well as being the Son of God. And the way, I think it's Matthew, the way he tells it, when he understood what was going on, then he spoke up. And I think he spoke with righteous indignation. He exploded because Judas exploded. All during the time that Judas was with the disciples, he was constantly working behind the scenes to undermine what Jesus was doing. He may not have realized what he was doing. Judas Iscariot went out and healed the sick and cleansed the lepers. Yes, he did. He worked miracles. But deep in his heart, he was working against Jesus the whole time, saying little snide remarks here and there that perplexed the disciples. But now he just is so full of his opposition that he explodes and says, this is horrible. We should condemn this woman. And then Jesus explodes, says, let this woman alone. And he looked Judas right smack in the eye. And it was here that Judas got so angry at being rebuked for the first time by the Son of God that he determined he was going to betray him. Good things and bad things happen at this meeting. They always happen, don't they, at meetings. And Jesus said something that is the reason why we're talking about this lady this morning. He said here, she hath done what he said in verse 7, you have the poor with you always. Anytime you like, you can help these barefooted children and feed the hungry and clothe the naked. But you don't have me forever. I'm on the way out. This lady has done what she could. I'm getting to the place where it may not be long before I stand before the judgment bar of Christ. You young people maybe have a long ways to go yet. But nothing could make me happier if when that day comes, if the dear Son of God could say this poor guy did what he could, that will make me happy, I can assure you. She has come ahead of time to anoint my body to the burying. And now here is the problem. Verse 9. He says, verily I say unto you, you listen to me. wheresoever this gospel shall be proclaimed throughout the whole world, this that this woman has done is going to be spoken of as a memorial of her. Now this that Jesus said could never have been fulfilled until our day today. Because all during the Dark Ages, when the Waldenses proclaimed the gospel here or there was no way that the gospel could be proclaimed throughout the whole world. And Matthew emphasizes that likewise. It's got to go to the whole world. In fact, it may not have been possible that what Jesus said could be fulfilled until the age of our jetliners and our internet, our modern means of communication, which have all taken place since the beginning of the great cosmic day of atonement, which is the reason why the Seventh-day Adventist Church exists. God has raised up the Seventh-day Adventist Church to proclaim to the world that we're living in the world's great day of atonement. This is the day of the cleansing of the heavenly sanctuary. The great high priest has left the first apartment where he ministered for 18 centuries, and he's closed the door, and he has opened the door into the most holy apartment. During those 18 centuries, the great high priest was busy working to prepare people to die so they could come up in the first resurrection. And if you're going to die, by all means get ready to come up in the first resurrection. But since the great high priest entered into the most holy apartment and has opened that door, he is doing a different work. He is now preparing people for translation at the second coming of Jesus. Yes, I'll agree there are people dying today who have the hope of the resurrection. I agree, that's true. And if you're going to die, be sure you get ready. But ever since I was baptized 72 years ago, anybody here baptized longer than 72 years ago? Anybody? I don't see a hand. I don't see a hand. Ever since I was baptized, I have cherished, what did I say, 72 years? Hey, I can't count. That was 82 years ago. I have cherished what they call the blessed hope. And what is the blessed hope? People think I'm crazy for cherishing the blessed hope. I wonder if you do. I wouldn't want to embarrass you, but the Adventist Review, published only recently, that young people in our universities, Loma Linda, Southern Adventist, Andrews, openly say we have no idea that Jesus could come back in our lifetime. I still cherish the blessed hope of seeing Jesus when he comes. Call me crazy if you like. I cherish the hope. Now, while this wonderful thing is happening here, and Jesus has made this prediction that everywhere the gospel is preached throughout the whole world, that I understand could have been fulfilled only in our time today. That means that the story of Mary Magdalene has something to do with the end times. Has to be. There is some link of connection between Mary Magdalene And those people that you read about in Revelation chapter 7, 1 to 4, who are sealed with the seal of God, and chapter 14, 1 to 5, the 144,000. And I hope if I can have a couple of moments, I may be able to examine that with you. But before we go there, we've got to go to Luke chapter 7. And we've got to find what Luke says about this same story. He tells it from an entirely different perspective, that of Simon the Pharisee at his party. And you can read it here in verse 36 of Luke chapter 7. One of the Pharisees invited him to this banquet. And behold, in our surprise, a woman in the city who was a sinner. When she knew that Jesus was at this party, she crashed the gate, brought her alabaster flask of precious, very precious ointment, stood at his feet behind him, verse 38, weeping, began to wash his feet with tears and dried them with her hairs of her head. A disgraceful thing for a woman to do, to let her hair down in public like that. When she left home with this precious ointment to go and anoint him while he was still alive, she thought, if I wait till he dies, he won't know what I'm doing. I would love to tell him, thank you for saving my soul while he's still alive. And so she came for that purpose, to tell him thank you. But she couldn't say it in words. She has to tell it in a deed. And she forgot to bring a towel. She hadn't thought she was going to cry like this. The fountain was open. She never dreamed that she had. And so in her embarrassment, because she forgot to bring a towel, she lets down her hair and she dries his feet with her hair. Now when this Pharisee, this great honorable man, Simon the Pharisee, verse 39, who had invited him, saw it, he said to himself, oh, I'm so glad I didn't confess that this man Jesus is the Messiah, because if he were the Messiah, he would know what kind of a woman that is who's touching him like that. That's disgraceful. He must be very, very ignorant. Now Jesus had awakened early that morning, and as Isaiah 50 verse 4 tells you, it was his custom to be awakened not by an alarm clock. He didn't need one. The Heavenly Father woke Jesus up every morning. And Jesus said he was not rebellious. He didn't turn the alarm off and go back to sleep again. He got up, and the Father called him, and he prayed earnestly, oh, Father, I don't know what's going to happen today, but please prepare me to be ready for whatever may happen today. And the Heavenly Father prepared Jesus to be ready for this emergency. And Jesus had the exactly right thing to say. He said, Simon, I'd like to tell you something. Yes, yes. And he told him a little story about two men who had borrowed money from a rich man. One had borrowed 500 silver coins, and the other had borrowed only 50. And when payday came, neither one had any money to pay the man back. And so the dear man frankly forgave both of them. You can go free, forget about your debt. I want to ask you a question, Simon. Which of those two will love him more? I can imagine that Simon is smart enough to begin to realize what's going on. And he answers, I suppose the one who was forgiven the most. And Jesus said, well done. I'll give you an A on that answer. And then he said, Simon, when I came to your house tonight, you gave me no water for even me to wash my own feet. And this woman has washed my feet with tears. Secondly, When I came to your house, you did not give me a kiss of welcome like you did all of your fellow Pharisees. But this woman has kissed my feet.